Here we go. All right. Hello out there, and thank you for joining today's Search Engine Journal webinar. With me, I have Ryan Johnson, Chief Product Officer at CallRail, and Andrew Miller, co-founder of Workshop Digital. Hello to both of you gentlemen. I think it's your first webinar here, so thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Heather. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. They're super excited.
Yeah, so are we. And so for everybody out there today, you are in the right place if you came to learn about Google's third-party cookie deprecation and 5 strategies to help you prepare for it. As we all know, they postponed it yet again. We're not surprised, at least I'm not surprised. But there's no time like the present to get started. So excited to see what this crew has for us today. First, I'm your host, Heather Campbell, the Director of Marketing here at SEJ. I have Jonathan in the background for tech support, and we also have Shannon back there with us today as well, because we do have a breakout room. So at the end of the presentation, at the start of the Q&A, Preston from CallRail will be in a breakout room. They're going to demo the system and answer any questions that you do have about their platform. So with that, I'm going to do some quick housekeeping so I can turn it over to Ryan and Andrew. First, use the chat. Let us know where you're calling in from today. We usually get a really good global mix here, and so excited to see those night owls who do stay up just to hear this. All right, if you need closed captioning, it's the little CC in the top right of your screen. Give that a click. We will do Q&A at the end of the presentation, like I mentioned. So if you have questions for the team, leave them in the Q&A tab. If you see a question that you like, give it a little thumbs up. That'll tell us that it's important to you all out there, and we'll do our best to front load those questions. Before you leave today's call, if you can stick around for a short survey, it lets us know how today's event went and how we can make them better for you in the future. And with that, the most asked question that we get is, you will absolutely receive today's recording and the slides in your inbox later today. And with that, yeah, let us know where look, I love it. I love it. All of these places. We've got Sweden, South Africa, Israel, North Carolina. I love it. I love it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. Ryan, Andrew, it's all yours. I'll be back at the Q&A.
Awesome. Well, thanks. So Andrew, you ready to get things kicked off?
We are ready to roll. Did you bring your favorite cookies today, Ryan?
Oh, you know what? I actually did. They're right here. How about you?
I did as well. To your fellow
right.
Oreo family, we never go without over here, but I guess that's not really what we're here to talk about today.
No, different types of cookies. So I'll kick us off here. Just a quick overview. Andrew and I will do some introductions, a little bit more about ourselves and our companies. We'll talk about Cookies 101. So do you like Oreos or chocolate chip or no? We're going to dive into what we're actually talking about with cookies. Third-party cookie deprecation, obviously the hot topic, especially with the Google Chrome news. What marketers need to know, and some tools and tips and strategies and resources to help prepare for this. So even though we have a longer runway, there's some things that you can do now that will help the process along more. And then finally, we'll have a Q&A with Andrew and I, and then we have Preston on the CallRail team that will be in the breakout room. All right, so I'll do a quick introduction. Again, my name is Ryan Johnson. I'm the Chief Product Officer at CallRail. I've been in technology leadership positions for about 15 years, both on the engineering and the product side. I still love delivering great products with teams to this day, and certainly exciting times around us with all this new AI innovation. This is a great time to be in product management. On the personal side, I live in Atlanta, Georgia with my wife and 2 daughters. And on the hobby side, I love auto racing and motorsports and taking my car to the track. So between CallRail and the family and automotive, that's my life in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I'm Andrew Miller. I'm one of the co-founders at Workshop Digital, where most of us are based in Richmond, Virginia, here in the States. I am originally from Atlanta, so we have that connection. Yeah. I think also last time we got together, we figured out we both like taking our families on strange camping trips.
That's right.
Forcing them out of the comfort of the air conditioning out into the wild a little bit.
Yeah.
You might be a little bit more adventurous on the cars front than I am, but Workshop Digital is a digital marketing agency. We've been working with clients in the B2B and B2C space since 2015 when we founded. Prior to that, I was running a smaller consultancy. Prior to that, in-house at Fortune 500, running SEO programs, and a big agency here in Richmond called the Martin Agency. Kind of got my start, cut my teeth, working with some of the largest brands out there as digital was coming into its own in the early 2000s. I guess that dates us a little bit. But anyway, credentials aside, like we're longtime CallRail partners. Ryan and I have gotten to work together on some really cool stuff. Excited to be here today and share what we've been cooking up, no pun intended, with you all. So Ryan, I'll hand it back to you to a little bit more about CallRail.
Sure. So for those of you that don't know CallRail, we're one of the leading intelligence platforms that deliver. What we want to do is we want to deliver, the best quality leads and be that trusted marketing partner. So know what is driving those leads and understand how to turn more of those leads into better customers. The elephant in the room, CallRail, yes, it has to do with calls as well too. So a significant amount of our business has to relate to tracking that offline, online, digital journey for those leads over the phone. And then, most recently, I would say lots of new, fun, exciting conversation intelligence, AI powered features that we recently launched. We've been around for almost 12 years now. We've been, on the G2 side, been in the top 50 for marketing products and small businesses for many years, and really love our customers' feedback and partnership to push us to make us the best partner that we can. And we have about 200,000 businesses. So our customers are agencies and SMBs behind those agencies, and we love being in that space and supporting you all. Andrew, I'll kick it back over to you.
We're both driving. Okay, yeah. Workshop Digital is a team of about 30 of probably the friendliest nerds you've ever met. As I said, most of us are in Richmond, but we have since gone hybrid and somewhat remote across the country. So it's a friendly picture of all of our smiling faces from the last time we all got together in person here in Richmond last summer. We are a lead generation, digital marketing, brand awareness, all the above agency. But really, we exist because we kind of rally around this call that we find that passionate people drive the most powerful results, right? And as an agency, we keep challenging ourselves to build a better agency every day. Meaning we question our assumptions, we look for new ways to do old things, we test and learn and iterate and give each other space, get outside our comfort zones, and really challenge some of the ways that agencies have worked in the past. And that's what leads us to opportunities like this, where we can share a lot of the knowledge that we're gaining across a wide variety of industries. We do B2B and B2C, as I said. We have a heavy focus on lead generation. So anytime we can use tools like CallRail and partner with them to understand more of the customer journey, it benefits us and it benefits our clients. So we are super excited to share what we're learning and how we're preparing for this cookie deprecation, which sounds like a big scary thing, but I think it's probably worth digging a little bit into, maybe a little understanding, common knowledge here about what we're talking about to make sure everybody's on the same page and looking at the challenges and the opportunities that are coming our way as marketers. So we thought we'd start with a little bit about understanding what cookies are, what browser cookies are, and then different types of data that we as marketers have access to and can use, and how some of those things will change over time as more of these privacy regulations or privacy settings come into focus. So first off, just to level set everybody, there are multiple types of cookies, right? We've got first-party cookies. These are created directly by the websites that you visit. Almost every website you'll visit out there will drop some kind of cookie in your browser. It's usually a hidden file that you don't see, nor do you necessarily need to, but it really helps that website remember things about you. What's in your shopping cart? Have you been there before? And they're generally originally intended to be driving convenience for us as web users. Now, of course, over time, those have evolved. They've gotten a little bit more complex. And we've seen the addition of third-party cookies, which we're talking about today. These are cookies that are placed on your browser from either advertisers or publishers or other networks of sites out there that are following you around the web, right? They want to build audience profiles. They want to target ads. They want to understand attribution. There are a variety of reasons why your browsing habits are interesting to third parties. There are a lot of positive reasons. There are also a lot of reasons that you might not want your browsing habits tracked across the web, which is why browsers like Chrome and others before it are giving you more control over how your web presence is tracked. So ultimately, as consumers, I like the option to have flexibility and understand how my data is being used, where it's being used, and make sure that the parties that are gathering my data or tracking my behaviors are ones that I can see transparently and trust, and then ultimately opt out of. So I think it's a win for consumers. We're going to be looking into these challenges as opportunities as marketers. So what about these seemingly skipped over second-party cookies? Well, it's kind of counterintuitive, but there's no such thing as a second-party cookie. It's almost a trick question, right? There's no cookie that exists in your browser as a second-party cookie, so we'll strike that from the record. But there is second-party data, which we'll talk about in a moment. Ryan will talk through different types of data. But really, this is anytime marketers or brands or advertisers or companies are selling data to each other, right? That's a second-party interaction. So we have a little bit better understanding of how cookies operate in our browsers outside of all the technical details. Let's talk about data for a second. Ryan, how do you break this down?
Yeah, I love this cartoon here, but so let's go through the different types. So you mentioned before, like zero-party data. What does that mean? And it's really just information that us as consumers share with companies. So we may go to a website and sign up for email notifications for a discount, or say that a product that you had isn't available, that you're interested in it, and so it kind of knows our intent, and we're sharing it to the company, and then they're helping make a better experience for us. Going to first-party data, this is information companies collect about their customers. You mentioned this, so that as consumers, when we come back, we have a better experience, whether it was a shopping cart or the page that we were on, or maybe a chat that we were engaged in. And then, certainly this information has been valuable to us as marketers and businesses to learn our customers' behavior, that once they get to the website, like what are the things that they're doing? Where are complexities that maybe they're buying, they're falling off of the buying path, or whatever it may be. So, really critical data on first party. And that's certainly CallRail's bread and butter is, understanding what's driving those phone calls to your website is part of that first party data. Second party data, you mentioned there's no cookie associated, but this is customer information that companies sell to each other. So many times, especially the bigger companies out there, you can think of credit card companies and those types of things. They share with insurance companies, and they're trying to predict the likelihood of, for lack of a better word, is synergy of why you would want that additional product. And so they share that data together. And then finally, third-party data. This is the data that's not collected directly, that do not directly interact with the customer or the business data. So this is companies that are looking to, at least up until this point, like understand behavior when you're clicking on different types of ads and those types of things, and then following it with you throughout your journey as a customer.
Yeah, maybe one additional point too, because a lot of times we hear confusion from our clients or people we're speaking with about, is first-party cookie the same thing as first-party data? And the simplest way to think about it is first-party data or third-party data can include a lot of different things. Browser cookies are just one type of data, right? It could be the information in your CRM, in your point-of-sale system. It could be, the cocktail napkins you're gathering at a convention. Like first-party data is just stuff you own.
Yep.
Cookies are just one small part of that.
Great. Well, I think we have our first poll. So the poll question is, what types of data do you rely on most currently? 0, 1st, or 3rd?
So we're going to give the audience a few seconds here to chime in. Ryan, I've got a question while we're waiting for those responses to come in.
Okay.
A lot of times we think of the third-party cookie deprecation. I'm not a celebrity guy, but sometimes in celebrity terms. So predictions, when we get deeper into this, do you think this breakup between Google and third-party cookies is going to look more like Kim and Kanye? It's going to be messy. It's going to be done out in public, and it's going to create wakes for the rest of us so we have to wade through? Or do you think it's going to be more like, I don't know, maybe Brangelina, where they do it for the kids, right? They do it peacefully, civilly, and at least seem to coexist well, but respect each other's space. Where do you think this one's going?
Yeah, I think it's on the Brangelina side I'm seeing so far, but you never know, right? We got another, a year and a half now to see where that goes. So, my bet would be on the more low key side, but you never know.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's, in my mind, third-party cookies certainly aren't going away. There's going to be a use case for them in some capacity, probably more limited, but I think it's safe to say, not many other browsers are going to pick up the third-party cookie on the rebound. So TBD, we'll see.
TBD, that's right. So it looks like we had our poll results in, and
I took that down a little too fast, didn't I? Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
We can throw those back up. We had 56% saying first party.
Okay.
So I see the poll popped up again. Let's jump ahead and talk a little bit more about the actual data that we're losing as marketers and what we can do about it. So Ryan, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Give me 1 second here. So breaking news, we already spoiled it before, but Google delays the deprecation of third parties yet again. As many people said, not shocking. This announcement just came a little over a week ago on April 23rd, ahead of some quarterly reporting from Google. And really some of the background is they're like, hey, we recognize that there's challenges in this, right? Like people aren't prepared. If we think about things like GA4 and that migration and those types of things, they can be very complex for their customers. And so it's a way to give them more time. There's been discussion about the tools that they're going to provide to all of us that should help make up for it. Sounds like maybe some of those are working or not working, and they need some more discovery. And then certainly they're triangulating with all the privacy regulations, both in the EU and here in the States. And there's lots of fun ways to interpret it and digest it. And so I think they're going through that as well. And then, there was no exact timetable. So they said 2025. We don't know if it's going to be a rolling, at least I didn't see, I looked today, if we're going to go from 1% to 5% and, the 100% comes in 2025. But I'm sure since the news is out, we'll get a better timeline of what's probably about to transpire.
Yeah, very timely. Great of them to drop that a week before we do this webinar.
Yeah, that's right. I'm like, oh no, I guess we don't need it anymore. No. Better be prepared much earlier. And so I want to play a little bit of a game of two truths and a lie about Google's cookie deprecation. So statement one, Google's privacy sandbox strategy is mainly for privacy reasons, but also they've built new tools for sites that support key use cases. So I already helped you out, I think, a little bit on that one. The second statement, third-party cookie deprecation is the end of user tracking. In statement number three, Google has removed 1% of third-party cookies from users from Chrome. Again, I think I might have given that away. So what's the lie? It is not the end of user tracking, so don't be totally afraid. As Andrew mentioned, there's new tools. There's a variety of different ways. Despite the heavy reliance that we've had as marketers on third-party cookies for tracking behavior, and really allowed us to monitor our activity with precision, there are plenty of different ways to track website visitors in this new world. We'll talk about that a little bit more with our tips and tricks. And then, at the same time, first-party cookies will still work by default in all browsers. So, for in our world at CallRail, like if you're using, our tracking, it's considered first-party, and they will work as even this gets deprecated in Chrome.
Yeah, so I see over in the chat, Mark already pointed this out. Another point of context, right? There's a lot of hype, especially this year leading up to this point, about Chrome's deprecation of the third-party cookie. It's not the first time we've heard that from Chrome, even. And they're not even the first browser to go down this path. Safari, Firefox have already been on this bandwagon for years. Chrome, because it's a Google product and they rely heavily on advertising and monetization, they have kicked the can down the road several times since at least 2023, maybe before that even. And 2025 still has a big question mark on it, right? Like, Let's be honest, Google has an incentive to build audience profiles, to serve targeted ads, to monetize, and they have to work within the existing technology frameworks out there. So the privacy sandbox that you mentioned, Ryan, that is a potential solution. I don't even think that they've settled on that as the end all be all yet. We've seen other iterations of that in years past with other types of anonymization or depersonalization. So it's still unfolding, right? And I think the key here is, as you said earlier, stay prepared, get out ahead of it, and try to use this as an opportunity to get even further ahead of either your competition or start testing and learning. So let's talk a little bit about how to do that. Right now, we'll get into the meat of it. Start talking about some of the strategies and tools that we as an agency are using, some of the ways that we're reaching out to partners to understand what this environment is going to look like going forward, and share that with you all. So this whole idea, this partnership with the CallRail team and us came about because we originally started collaborating on some content. And at first, when these headlines first started hitting our news feeds a few months ago in this current iteration, the first thing we could do is just start to really think through, allaying concerns, right? As you said, the end of user tracking is not here. It's just the end of one type of tracking. So we're still going to be able to do a lot of the things that we as marketers are used to doing, but we have to be diligent. We have to audit our tracking tools and audience data. We have to be prepared for a world where first-party data are table stakes, right? That's going to be the only thing we have left at some point. So the data you own or data you control as a marketer or as a brand, as an agency, those are where we need to start playing and start building strategies around. They won't just be nice to haves. So this kind of kickstarted this whole conversation around the types of data that we're collecting. So our second poll question here is, are you currently leveraging zero or first-party data in your marketing, or neither? Love to know if you have fully gotten on this train yet, or if you're still dependent on other forms of targeting and audience creation. We'll give you a few seconds to chime in here.
Yeah, while we do that, Andrew, I heard you're a really big fan of dad jokes.
I've been called worse, yeah.
All right, well, I've especially prepared a great dad joke relating to the topics today. So let me ask you, what did CallRail in Workshop Digital, or I should say, why did CallRail in Workshop Digital throw a party when Google fully deprecates their third-party cookies?
I don't know, and I'm not sure I want to know. What's the answer?
Because we knew it was time to track down a new recipe for success.
All right, I'll give you points for the recipe. I'll accept it.
The track.
I'll accept it. Yeah, throw any other punchlines in the comments there.
Yeah. By the way, that was not my own writing. I leaned on our friends at OpenAI and GPT-4, and that was one of the many interesting responses I got.
Maybe next time we get together, we can run that through Anthropic and see what they say.
There we go.
Yeah,
get some different flavors.
Yeah, good. Yeah, better mix. They're out of milk. Things were starting to crumble already. I can go on all day. There's some good comments coming in too. So, all right, looks like the vast majority of us are already using zero and first party data in our marketing. That's great, right? We have some work to do around the edges, cleaning up, making sure that we understand where that third party data is or that second party data lives in our marketing stack, and making plans to address it proactively. So, thanks for chiming in there. This kind of backs up what we were thinking, but it's good to see from you all firsthand. So let's jump into where we should go next. This is what we really wanted to share with you all. So we at Workshop Digital have some thoughts, and then I'll let Carl and Ryan and his team share what they're thinking. First and foremost, we encourage everybody, go check your own site first, right? There's some tools out there, and I'll share some examples in a moment in upcoming slides, but free, easy tools that exist within Google Chrome that are going to let you check your own site or any other sites that you might be partnered with or marketing on to see what cookies even exist today. So check your own stuff first. Then start auditing your marketing stack or your tech stack, right? Work with your vendors, work with your partners, work with your agencies, work with your internal teams even to understand what data they are collecting, how they're using cookies today, what they anticipate happening. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then, as marketers, we're all about experimenting, learning, iterating, testing. So those that start now are going to win later, right? So if we can't rely on some of the targeting methods we've had previously, let's look for those next best case scenarios and start to build some workarounds and maybe even find some advantages that we didn't know existed. So that's where I'm going to go with this. Ryan, where are y'all taking this?
Yeah, a few highlights. One is make sure as you audit and do these things, fully utilize all the first party tracking that you have available to yourself. This could be with existing tools such as CallRail, maybe making sure that all your phone numbers are being tracked on the business side, or other tools out there. There's no need to wait to 2025. It's better to prepare yourself today. I think most importantly, and I think you kind of alluded to it, don't panic. And, if you're utilizing first party tracking, in many cases, there's nothing that you need to do to keep it working after third party tracking is fully deprecated. So it's probably the number one question that we get. I think even some of your customers, Andrew, came to you and you came to me of hey, do we need to do anything with CallRail to keep it working? And the short answer is no. And that's probably applicable to most first party tracking. I would say stay current with the latest announcements from Google. So keep diligent on what they share and any changes that may be happening between now and the end. And then I think this is where our partnership with Workshop Digital is just amazing, is partner with agencies to really help you through the transition and capitalize on these new strategies. You all hear anecdotes from your customers about the concerns that they have. And it's always really important for companies like CallRail to hear that and say, oh, there's, either misinformation about a change that's going to happen, or, hey, this is way more serious. How do we help our customers through the GA4 transition, for example? So being able to partner with great companies, I think, makes a big difference as we, kind of all go through this.
Yeah, well, thank you for the shameless plug. Y'all have made it easy, and I'm going to give credit to our paid media team at Workshop Digital for leading the charge on gathering all this information, and I'll share what they have found in just a moment. So here's where I wanted to show rather than tell, or show in addition to tell. When we're suggesting things like go check your own site, use Chrome Dev Tools, that's not intuitive to a lot of people, and most of us, I'd wager, don't even know that there are some really powerful tools built into Chrome by default out of the box. So here's what I want you to do, a little bit of homework. Go to your website, click the View menu, top left nav bar, if you're on a Mac. Then select Developer Tools, Privacy Sandbox. You'll find all these little links. They're hidden throughout this interface here that I screenshotted. Then there's a Cookies tab. You kind of have to dig 5 layers deep, but you can actually see what is showing up on your own domain as first-party and third-party cookies, and you can toggle and filter within there. and start to see from a browser's perspective what kind of data you are collecting, what your vendors or partners or analytics platforms are collecting. And I think you'll be surprised. This is a quick snapshot of our site. We've got a lot of technology integrated on our site because we love testing new things and exploring and learning. So our site is dropping a lot of cookies, or third parties through our site are dropping a lot of cookies. We have to know what's going to work and what's not going to work next year. So first step, go check your own site. Second step, talk with your partners, talk with your teams about what they're collecting and how they're using that information and what needs to change in the future. So these are some thought starters, some prompts that you can work into your conversations. You don't have to use these exactly, but this is how we approached our conversations with CallRail and the advertising platforms we use, the programmatic platforms, the social networks. We really wanted to dig in and understand what their understanding of the third-party deprecation means to Chrome users and to advertisers, and then how they're adapting, right? So I won't read through these in great detail, but you can look and scan through here. It's really straightforward, but I wanted to give you a starting point because we don't always know how to frame these questions, and we don't know how to look for impact as well. And so these will help us understand what's changing so that we as marketers can apply the so what, right? So what does that mean? What are we going to do with this information? It's my favorite question. If there's a bonus question at the end, it's what is Andrew's favorite question? So what? All right, lastly, experiment now, win later, right? Those that get an early mover advantage are going to be ahead of the game when it comes to out marketing your competitors. And by that, I mean, they might be caught off guard when third-party cookies eventually do go away in Chrome, or they're already behind the 8 ball on Safari and Firefox browsers and different types of mobile browsers and different combinations of those. So what our team did, and again, I give full credit to our team for doing this research and putting together these resources. They went to all the major ad networks that we use, some of the more obscure ad networks we use, programmatic partners, social partners, analytics platforms like CallRail and CRMs and everything else. We compiled a guide, and you can link to it in the handouts tab on the right side of your webinar screen. But we broke down in each of these platforms the different types of targeting methods or tracking methods, attribution methods, estimated impact, high, medium, or low, and then what it means, right? The so what? What are the details? What do I have to do to change things? So we really wanted to put it together into a comprehensive guide that we shared publicly freely on our website so you can dig in and see for your particular combination of platforms and architecture, what you need to do now to start preparing, right? And the whole point of this webinar is not to get too specific and say, if you're using Google Ads and HubSpot and CallRail and platforms XYZ, here's your recipe for success. That's impossible because every combination of platforms is going to look different. We wanted to give you the ingredients to go bake your own solution, right? So take this for what it's worth, find it in the handouts tab, give us some feedback, right? This is evolving over time as these platforms evolve their solutions, and big shout out to Ryan and the CallRail team for being super hands-on with helping us answer these questions about the CallRail platform, putting our minds at ease that, yep, CallRail will continue to work. That's huge for us because almost every one of our clients uses it. So that's how we're approaching this, right? Test and learn, iterate, and then I know there's some other things you can do within platforms and within CallRail to get ahead of this as well.
Yeah. I love that last slide, by the way, Andrew. I think I saw close to the top of the hour, a few people asking about Meta and Facebook and LinkedIn and how does it affect all that. So hopefully that helps with some of the questions there. But yeah, I think one of the last things that, I'd call out is, as we talk about investing in tools is, invest the time into setting up your GA4 integration. Certainly, if you are a CallRail user, make sure you have that turned on and set up correctly. And there's lots of information and specifics. Again, there's not one way for everyone to do it, but it's important that you're utilizing these tools. And I think what we've seen is some customers have been reluctant to get really going on GA4. But now has it been 2 years or only 1 year? I can't remember.
It's been over 2 since GA4 officially came out.
Yeah, that's right.
Less than a year since it became mandatory.
That's right. So it's less than a year. So I think there's a lot. We still get feedback. We still are altering our integration with GA4, I would say almost on an every other month basis, because we are learning new things and they're releasing new things. So it's important that you have these other integrations. It helps out with things like protected audience API and those types of things. So important that you lean on all those tools that are available to you, like GA4.
Yeah. And like you said, I think can't emphasize enough, keep checking back for updates, because even GA4 is not fully baked. I can't stop with that stupid cookie puns. We could do a whole other webinar on just GA4 and how that's going to be, how that's already impacting tracking and analytics and attribution. But I'm glad you called this out, because these integrations do evolve and change as specifically GA4 evolves and changes. It's so new, and it's probably a tool that most of us on this webinar use on a daily basis or a regular basis. So keep clicking that refresh button, and I think you'll probably find new updates, almost every week at this point.
Yeah.
So Ryan, all good info. We did try to capture a lot of this in some handouts and helpful resources. Again, they're available in the tab. I know they'll be included in some follow-up from this email. Some great resources from your team on your site about your tools and platform, and great information for small businesses. And we've tried to match that with one-sheeters and recorded content from before, blog articles, PDFs, resources, to give out as much information as we can. Is there anything you wanted to point people to specifically on your site?
No, I don't think so. We have a few articles that you mentioned, one in partnership with you. So, I think it's, kind of shares the two views that we share in a great way. And I would say keep on checking back. Like, I know there's even more information that's coming out soon. And so we're, like you all at Workshop Digital, and we really want to continue to get resources in the market and educate folks as things change.
Yeah. Well, I applaud your team and Morgan, who's also shadowing on this call, and her team for putting together a lot of this great content. So the more we can educate, our philosophy is the more we can share and advocate for this kind of information, the better off we're all going to be and the better marketers will be. So keep it coming. You'll be hearing from us when things change and when we get new information. So appreciate y'all being transparent and helpful with us as well. And maybe, I know we're going to break out into breakout rooms, so maybe we'll wrap this part up. We can talk through what comes next.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect. So I am going to start the breakout room. That should pop up for everybody, and you can click that join, click the breakout room, and then click join. And that should push you right over there. If you do want to come back, you can click the buttons at the end and pop back into this Q&A. But Preston will be over there from CallRail to answer some questions. And with that, all right, let's.
And I think, Ryan, you and I are going to hang out here to answer questions. Preston's doing a demo.
Yep, perfect. Yep.
Right, I believe this. So if you want to see CallRail in action, hit that breakout room. If you want to hear more dad jokes, stick around here.
Perfect. Well, maybe we'll leave a dad joke for before we sign off. But first, let's get to Christina's question. We've got 3 votes on there. So Christina's asking, how does the accept cookies banner play into this change?
Good question. So consent mode or cookie consent, it's implemented differently on a variety of different platforms. So depending on if you're using Google Tag Manager or another consent platform, the technical details can differ a little bit, but third-party cookies are still third-party cookies, whether you accept them or not. A browser will stop collecting them, stop storing them, stop using them. So my understanding, my interpretation would be that third-party cookies won't matter anyway, whether you accept them or not. Open to different opinions on that or different experiences, but that's how I interpret it.
Perfect. So Emily dropped a question, is the third-party cookieless future due to data privacy laws being passed at state level? So any insight on why we're doing this?
Yeah, I'll share my point of view on this. I think, yes, we certainly had California kind of leading that charge for a while now. But I certainly think like the EU has probably had the most amount of pressure. And their privacy laws and compliance are much stricter, as we've seen. And so I think it's a mix of both EU and the States, and pushing the industry to adapt to these new standards. And I totally assume they're going to continue to evolve in this new world of AI. You can imagine all the different things that we can do and that can be done. And so I think you're already seeing that as well. Like EU is a little bit ahead of the curve, even with all the new AI governance and regulation that's out there too. So I think there's a couple different forces putting on this. But yeah, between state level and EU, to me, those are the biggest drivers.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we track the state level privacy regulations as well. And for those of you not in the US, we have a very much a patchwork of laws and regulations about what can be tracked and what can't be. And that even differs by industry. So the healthcare industry can track and record different things, fewer things than, say, industrial manufacturer. So we even have to be aware of what is allowed and not allowed within those different industry-specific privacy regulations. I don't know. I would agree, Ryan. I don't know if the laws or the impending state level laws are the main driver, but I think it's the deprecation of third-party cookies and other privacy regulations are meant to maybe avoid a situation where we have potentially 50 different sets of regulations that marketers and brands and platforms have to wade through. So one rule that applies to everybody is simpler to enforce and to adapt to.
Yeah, that's great insight. Okay, let's see. Ravneet is asking, can you elaborate more on second-party data and third-party? They seem to come from other parties, not directly. So maybe I think this was a little bit of an earlier question, and maybe you cleared this up, but maybe just go through it one more time.
Sure, I'll tell you the way I think about it. Try to in the most simplistic forms. I think the data itself, you could probably tie similarities to, but in reality, the way I think about second-party data is truly companies that are sharing information with each other. It's not based on any types of cookies or those types of things. It's really, they have customer data, they're selling that to other customers, or they're selling it to a network, or they're trading on it. And they're trying to find those commonalities to, target those individuals based on interests and those types of things. There's a variety of different ways that you can, do that to get that second party data. Lots of different companies that focus on it. And then I always think of third party probably too closely to, browser cookies, but really any of these, systems outside of our own companies that are, tracking user behavior from kind of an outside source. That's how I most generically think about it. I'm sure there's holes you could poke in that, but that's what I think. How about you, Andrew?
I think that nailed it. That's exactly right. I mean, whether it's data sold directly between companies or it's just collected based on our behaviors, at the end of the day, we still don't have much control over it as consumers. So right now, we're talking about that third-party data that's collected about us. There's nothing really being done about the data that's sold about us.
Yeah, I do think it will affect that industry, though. If you think about a lot of the second-party data companies are built on top of third-party data that they're getting from other places.
Well, that's
so
right.
They're having to figure out what they look like in the new world too, because they're not going to have access to some of this data that they've had access for many years. Right,
and I know there are bigger impacts. We're approaching this whole conversation has been framed from the perspective of advertisers. Mm-hmm. It's a different world if you are a publisher or if you depend on let's say ad impressions for revenue, and specific target audiences on your website. If you're able to bundle and sell audiences, on a CPM model or premium advertising, let's just say you're a newspaper website or a publication online, you stand to lose from the deprecation of third-party cookies because the advertising that's being sold on your platform won't be as targeted, therefore less valuable, and potentially lower CPMs, lower ROI for the advertisers. So there is a downstream effect on different types of business models. So I can understand why there's a little bit of hesitance. And obviously there's enough hesitation on Google's part that they punted yet again.
Yeah. Question from Connor. When third-party cookies inevitably go away, what plans do you have for data attribution, especially within GA4?
Yeah, big topic. Great question, Connor. I saw this come in. I was hoping we'd get to it. So from a GA4 perspective, it's almost like Google knew this was happening. It's weird. GA4 is built on an event-based model. All that really means is they're capturing a lot of data, and they can apply machine learning to those data sets, even if there are gaps in data when third-party cookies go away or different attribution sources aren't available anymore. They're banking on the fact that their machine learning models will be able to fill in some of those data gaps within GA4 and make educated guesses or inferences about where some of those conversions are coming from. So we're going to lose a little bit of specificity as marketers. We're going to have to get used to either modeling or get used to making some predictions and assumptions. But really, as you said, Connor, in your question, like lean into first-party data as much as you can, right? That's going to be the most valuable resource you can have, whether it's an email list, a customer list, or some other way that you're capturing information. That first-party data will be the most valuable asset in your marketing tool set. And Ryan, curious about you all and what you're seeing out there as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think about all the different ways to be able to capture that from a first party perspective, you know, whether you have form submissions or chats or messaging, you know, it's a good thing to always do an audit to say, hey, do we have these available to capture the most amount of information, incentivize people to give us that information, you know, obviously do it in a safe way. But are there new things that maybe as marketers, you're like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about form submissions because I'd rather have them pick up the phone call. Sure, but it could be a interesting, you know, some of these other ways to capture that information and then push it through GA4 and other places will certainly help fill in those gaps, you know, once the full switchover happens.
Yeah. Okay. Katya asks, what about GTM server-side tagging? How can it be integrated with third-party deprecation?
I will admit that's not my area of expertise. It's a big topic, and there's a lot that goes into server-side implementation. So I'm going to have to do some more research on this myself. But Ryan, is it something you've?
You know, I'm the same. I'm not specific on that. You know, you and I have had conversations about server side. What we do at CallRail swap because we've had customers that say, yes, we understand your first party, but our compliance team does not want, you know, your JavaScript code on their website. And then we said, okay, well, what if it was your own? And you can do the server side tracking and then send CallRail the data. How would you feel about that? And so very early days for that, but I don't have any specifics on the GTM side out there. And how does that play into it? Would that be the same or treated differently? I don't know as well.
Yeah. I know there are brands and there are publishers out there using server-side tagging. It's in our experience, it's still relatively niche. It takes a lot of technical know-how to implement and to get right, and the implementation is different. So it's not typically accessible maybe to a small to medium-sized business with the resources that we're working with.
Yeah, it can be highly customized of what you put out there, and then you got to make sure it's maintained. And you know, if something goes wrong, you know, you have all the data and that type of stuff. So yeah, it's very early days of it, but I wouldn't be surprised that, you know, over time there's easier ways that we can figure out how to deploy it. You know, that we'll see maybe more people that want to go that direction too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think Google is experimenting. There's some comments going on in the comment thread if you're not following along. Google's experimenting with a lot of different things, right? Server-side tracking being one of them. other solutions like the privacy sandbox we touched on earlier. And I think, it kind of remains to be seen what's going to stick.
So that kind of leads us into a good question from Daniel. What data would you recommend to capture and save for that first party data? And I know some of this, it depends on their industry and, what they're allowed to collect, but any just kind of best practices?
Well, I'll speak to it from our lens. We can use a lot of different types of first party data to target ads and to build audience lists. Let's say on Google, LinkedIn, Meta, and a variety of programmatic platforms. So most common, email addresses, phone numbers. Those are very common types of first party data that we can collect from customers, and either through form submissions or through CallRail, and start to use that information to build, once we have consent, of course, build audiences to target or retarget ads to. So in our world, those are the most common. Curious, Ryan, what else y'all are seeing?
Yeah, I think the same for us, right? Obviously, being able to capture that information for businesses that depend on inbound phone calls and forms and SMS, and even seeing more in social messaging. And so being able to capture that. And then I think one of the things that we're trying to do, and I didn't really mention it previously, is and I think a lot of companies, I think it was mentioned on, what Google's trying to do with AI. But, once we have first party data in our world, if you think of a full conversation, like what can you do with that now with all this? We could spend all day talking about conversation intelligence and what you can glean from there. But I think there's new technology out there that even help you capture all that data in different ways, to where during a conversation, maybe a website chat or even a phone call for that matter, is, oh, they mentioned a spouse. Great. We have the spouse's name that we can put in the record. Oh, they mentioned that they have a dog. Oh, okay. Put that. So there's like other pieces of information in the conversation that I think also helps kind of capture and make that first party data even more robust.
That's a great explanation. So I think we've got time. We'll take this last question. And I think this is a good wrap up from the demo Preston and the gang might be coming back from. But does CallRail send data to Microsoft Ads?
So Asher, feel free to reach out to me after this. But we do this today. I don't know if there's like a particular, each one of our integrations has its own uniqueness as far as what data that we can send and what data that we don't. So if there's something very specific, either ask Preston or feel free to reach out to me and I can find out for you. But in general, we have a Microsoft Ads integration and it passes along a lot of the data around what happens on the phone call. So happy to dig in more.
Yeah, and I thought that was a functionality that you all had. All right. So with that, I think we've gotten through most of our questions. We've had a lot of thank yous in the, Preston just added a link in there for Preston. Support. So there you go. So perfect. So we've had a lot of thank yous for the information that you all have shared. Before you take off, there are handouts. There's a handouts in the handouts tab. There will be links in the follow-up email to all the resources that Ryan and Andrew have gone over, along with links for the presentation and the recording. So you'll get, or the slides and the recording. So you get all that later. With that, Ryan and Andrew, tell the people how to find you. It says connect with us on LinkedIn. Never mind. It's already there. It's my favorite question. I always end with it. And like, this is like the third webinar they've answered before I could ask. So there you go.
Yeah. Right. Please don't be shy. I love getting messages on LinkedIn and Twitter and anything. It's getting unique perspectives and challenges. It's very delightful for me. So, I tell people don't be shy. And certainly our websites, right, with Workshop Digital and CallRail, lots of different resources that are out there for free to help you with this journey too.
Yeah, same offer. I love connecting online and offline and talking about this stuff. We could nerd out about it all day long. We're on all these social channels. Our handle's a little bit different on each one. So just search for us. You'll find us. If we know what we're doing, you can find us on any of these channels. And we'd love to keep the conversation going, both, from our brand platforms and from our personal platforms. Ryan's been a huge help for me and our team, just reaching out to him individually. I don't want to blow up your inbox, but
I'll take it.
Yeah, no, these are great ways for us to connect and share. And we could probably do the same webinar a month from now and have all new information.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Awesome. Well, in the chat, Preston dropped his email. So if you're looking for a personalized demo, you can reach out to Preston for that. And with that, I'm going to let everybody go. But before you go, Ryan, is that an SEJ behind your head? Did you write on your board?
I did.
Yes,
I did some 5-year-old artwork because I'm in my office and I was like, it's so boring. I forget. If I was smart, I would have gotten one of our wonderful UX designers to come in and draw something truly amazing. But yeah, I want to give you all a little shout out backwards.
No, it's perfect on my screen. So I love it. I love that shout out. We'll take it. So love having you both here. We love the Call Wrangle gang. Yeah. So excited for the next webinar. And in the meantime, we'll talk to you guys next Wednesday.
Yeah,
have a great day. Ryan,
Thanks,
Andrew,
everybody.
thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.